So let's talk about parole. Let's
Yes.
have that conversation. And I'm going to let you handle that, Don, because you have some personal involvement in
Well,
some interest in it.
our family, and I've mentioned this actually in the show,
Mm-hmm.
another show at another time, but I've had two brothers murdered.
I'm sorry to
One,
hear that.
thank you. I had one brother who was murdered, whose uh, murder actually took off, went back to Mexico, so he was not caught. And I have another brother who's um, victim of being being murdered. He was my 18-year-old brother at that time, my baby brother. So it really kills me because growing up in the streets of Los Angeles, the big brother, even in the streets of LA, is kind of like a second dad in a sense. I saw my brother the night before that he got killed, so it really is a hard thing because it was the night that I proposed to my wife, and I told him, hey, I'm getting married, and we told each other we weren't getting married till we were in our mid 30s, and we laughed it off, and that was it. Gave each other a hug, and that was the last time I saw him. Now that coming to this topic, it's pretty it's concerning to our family because it's kind of like we're a family that wasn't born with a silver spoon in our mouths. We grew up in my mom picking up junk recyclables up in the streets of and alleys of Los Angeles, and you know it hasn't been an easy life for all of our family. And now, you have people out here claiming that they're looking out for victims everywhere. We're over here, claiming everyone's a victim, But who's taking care of those people whose hearts are broken, whose lives are forever changed, um, living in this city from things like murder? And, with someone with a philosophy that, 15 to 20 years is just, that's the limit. No one should give more than that for any crime. That doesn't really jibe well with me, and I'm sure it doesn't jibe well with many other people who never see or embrace their loved ones, again. So, so now going into some of the things that have been happening, we were right there at the halls of justice a few weeks ago, right, when they announced
Mm-hmm.
a recall for Gascon, and we had several victims that spoke there, but I think a lot of people are not really aware of what these people are really complaining about outside of the fact that these people are getting released or they're not being prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I guess that leads into the question of what is actually happening when someone comes up for parole, and how is I mean you talked about a commissioner having to review the files, and make a decision that very same day, and maybe or maybe not have they reviewed the entirety of that profile or that file. So how does that, you can share with our listeners kind of the process of that.
Right. So one of the big differences between Mr. Gascon and all the prior DAs that I've worked for is his parole policy. Up until he was elected, and for decades, the district attorney's office sent a deputy DA to attend all lifer hearings. So these are parole hearings for people who are doing life sentences. This is not just any old parole hearing for robbery or burglary. This is the serious stuff. And our role at these hearings is to observe them, to assist the commissioners with information that they may not have, and they don't always have all the information about the underlying offense. We also receive the inmates' prison records, including psychological reports, risk assessment reports, incident reports, fights or any troubles he's had or she's had while in custody. And sometimes the commissioners miss something of significance in those records. The deputy DA is there to point that out. Every inmate is represented at these hearings by a lawyer, and he or she also has the right to speak, to make a statement. Deputy DAs have the power to ask questions of the inmate. So
Hmm.
it's not uncommon for inmates to make misstatements of fact
Hmm.
or not address something in his prison records. A deputy DA could ask questions. The way it operates formally is the deputy DA asks the commissioners to ask the inmate the question. So it's an indirect
Interesting.
questioning. But at least somebody is there to do some form of examination or cross-examination, if you will, of an inmate who may not be telling the truth or glossing over important facts. And the deputy DA is there for transparency. I mean, we represent the people, and the people should be in the room. Because when you're not in the room, strange things can happen. We're just another set of eyes and ears for the commissioners. We can only help them. We were never obligated to make a recommendation about whether somebody should be given parole or not, and oftentimes we didn't. And, oftentimes we would recognize that somebody is entitled to be paroled because they served their time, they ran a good program, in some cases an exceptional program, and we don't lock people up forever unless they're sentenced to life without parole, which is another problem because DA Gascon has taken that away from LA County. We no longer have a sentence of life without parole in LA County because he won't file special circumstances allegations. So anyway, there are all kinds of problems with his parole policy and not having a DA present.
So what happens when, because, there's been some cases that we've seen, it's been broadcast, it's been on CNN, Fox News, about different victims' parents that have had to go to these parole hearings. Are they able to ask questions? Are they able to talk to the commissioner? Are they able to talk to the person that's up for parole and question them?
Excellent question. No, victims do not have the same rights that deputy DAs have at a parole hearing. Victims can make a victim impact statement. That is, victims can talk about the impact of the crime on their lives, and that's it.
And that's in writing? That's not like in person?
They can make a statement in person.
Okay.
But they can't go beyond describing the impact of the crime on their lives or their family.
So when a victim shows up to a parole hearing and doesn't want this person paroled for obvious reasons, that's why they're there, and they don't have representation from the DA's office, what happens? Because that just does not sound like a positive situation to me.
Well, his policy is a major problem for many reasons, but one is that it's re-traumatizing victims.
Mm-hmm.
When victims find out that they'll have to go it alone, what we've seen is they're requesting the prosecutor's file. They want the coroner's report. They want the police reports. They want to see pictures from the crime scene. Things, in some cases, they never wanted to see before. I did a case, a mother named Jessica Corday, whose son was beaten. We did 4 separate trials involving different defendants, and she never wanted to see her son dead at the crime scene.
I can't imagine.
She never wanted to see those images. So whenever that would come up in each of these trials, I would go out into the audience and have her step outside. She didn't want to remember him that way. And it wasn't until DA Gascon decided that we will no longer represent the people at these hearings that for the first time she felt she needed to see everything.
Wow.
And she went into that hearing by herself. The commissioners reached the wrong decision. They granted parole.
Oh my gosh.
And then she went on a 4-month odyssey all the way to Governor Newsom's office. And Governor Newsom, to his credit in that case, reversed the decision to grant parole in that case because it was so obviously a flawed decision in the first place. And I thought that was a major indictment of Gascon's policy because, Gascon and Gavin Newsom are two birds of a feather.
Right.
Gavin Newsom gave Gascon the job of DA in San Francisco.
Right.
But it was a major rebuke to Gascon when Gavin Newsom reversed that decision.
Well, what? With a 4-month odyssey is what people are going to have to look forward to, and that's
just not something our victims should have to go through.
Absolutely not.
Well, we are so grateful that you came on, John, and we definitely want to have you back.
Thank you.
For sure, we want to have you back, and we're so grateful you came into studio. And I know there's so much more information traveling around in your brain that we need to get out. So we will definitely have you back, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
And so for all of our listeners that did call in and we couldn't get to you, our clock got a little bit stressed, but we will catch you next week. So tune in from 8 to 9 here on the Los Angeles Hispanic Radio Show with Don.
Don filling in the big shoes. Everybody have a wonderful evening.
Wonderful 4th of July and celebrate safely. And please leave your fireworks unlit. Yes. Keep those dogs safe. Those vets safe. Quit scaring people with them.